LinkedIn Outbound is broken, and it's not because the platform doesn't work, but it's because everyone is doing it wrong. Spam is flooding the inboxes. People are using AI templated spray and pray messages, and they're also relying on Sales Navigator to provide all their data, thinking that they're using real intent, but they're actually not. And today, I'm going to show you 3 fixes that you need to be applying in 2026 if you want outbound campaigns to work on LinkedIn. So let's get into it. The reality of what's happening right now is that there is a huge spam problem. Everybody is using some form of AI. There's a lot of software tools out there that are pushing this narrative that AI is just going to do all of the work for you and it's going to book you all of these appointments. So you see it being used everywhere, and you see this poor use of personalization where they go and they grab some random thing about your profile, they spin it through a Google Sheets, AI takes a little bit of it and then apply that. And it does not work. And you're probably feeling the same way. And that is because everyone is forgetting the fundamentals of really what the LinkedIn platform is. And it is that it is not a social media platform. It is 100% a networking tool. So the sooner that you come to the realization that you're there to build relationships, you're there to network, the easier that this process is going to get. The next big problem I see is just using wrong targeting. They're using basic Sales Navigator filters. They're just applying a little bit of demographics to say, this is my person. Here's the problem with that, is that you're not actually pulling in people who have what we call buyer's intent. There is a way in which you can build a list off of people who have shown interest in your products and services online. Think podcasts, YouTube, Reddit, LinkedIn itself. There are people who out there who actively starts their search first before they go down the rabbit hole of starting to speak to some of your competitors. There's a way to use the internet to find those people and base the list building off of that. So if you're using the Sales Navigator or using some of their intent data, it's not actual real intent data. I call that fake intent, and it's just a way for Sales Navigator to sell more of their subscriptions. I'm not here to say that Sales Navigator doesn't have its place, because I love the feature that I can see who comes back and views my profile. That one feature alone has closed me so many deals and is well worth its weight in gold. However, I do not just rely on Sales Navigator to build our lists for any of our campaigns or any of the clients that we work with or any of the revenue share partners that we have. The next big piece I see going wrong is no follow-up. So either teams are not doing any sort of follow-up at all with their outbound, or the way in which they're executing on it is done completely wrong. Some other pieces that you need to recognize that are sabotaging your results is first is no content. If you are not posting content on the platform and you're trying to run outbound, you are selling yourself short. There's a magical thing that happens when you have a relationship started on LinkedIn. LinkedIn recognizes that a relationship has started, so it naturally will push out your content. And or if you're doing any commenting strategies on LinkedIn, check out some of my other videos that I've done on that. But if you're doing any of these strategies and you're not posting authority building content, you are leaving your outbound campaign astray. And that is because you're not getting enough touch points in the door, and you have to show off things like cost of inaction. You have to show off things like the objections that come up along your sales process. You have to be posting content pretty consistently. The next piece is terrible positioning. You're pointing these campaigns at people who aren't actually interested in what you have to offer or what you have to say. There's a really great book called Obviously Awesome by April Dunford, and she talks a lot about this in her book. But we need to figure out what is the one thing that we are incredibly good at, that we can plant our flag on, that when we do a little bit of research, we can then go and find the segment of the market that cares more about that thing than anything else that we have going on. And so that is what trumps one of the biggest things that hold B2B deals back, and that is fear. Fear of making the wrong decision. Fear that if I say that my company should hire you for your product or your service, and you do me dirty, that's my job on the line. So you have to give reasons to those people who advocate for you as to why they should pick you. So that's what I mean by terrible positioning, is not figuring out what is the segment of the market that cares more about this so that they can pick me instead of picking the most well-known, most biggest competitor, most biggest brand in my space. Even if it's not a direct competitor, doing some solid research here is very, very important. Next, also we have to look at is a risky automation. So are you using tools that violate the terms of service of LinkedIn? Technically, all automation tools, anything that picks apart information from the platform, any of these Chrome extensions, it's all against the terms of service. We use a platform called Conneqter to do all of our campaign management. So it does things like connecting with people on the platform, can automate sending out the first message. It can automate quite a bit actually, but really why I love it is its ability to optimize the inbox, which we're going to talk about here in the next point. But essentially, you need to pick a tool that's not going to get your profile at risk. But after the 4 years of using this tool, we've never once seen a profile loss, not one of ours, not one of our clients, not one of our rev share partners. So it's very, very important that you pick a tool that is not going to risk your profile, because if you lose your profile, it's very hard to get another one back off the platform. Disorganized inbox is a big problem. If you are using outbound campaigns on LinkedIn and you are trying to manage the inbox inside of LinkedIn, it is very hard to do. And that is because they give you no way to properly organize that inbox. So you want a way to easily see with a tagging system, with seeing what's unread, what's been read, and going through and managing an inbox that makes it very easy to come back to some of your best prospects, the people that you still have to book appointments with, the people who were not a fit, but you targeted them. You need a way to easily keep track of all these people. And that's another reason why we use the platform Conneqter. I'll leave a link in the description if you are looking for a tool like this. If you use that link below, you will get an opportunity to do a free trial to check out the software. And then the last one here is skipping the trust building. Everybody wants a shortcut, but B2B buyers, they need to know and like you and trust you before they're even ever going to respond. So if you go back to my first point here about, not posting any content, that does take care of a lot of that problem. But I'm going to talk about the content here in a little bit. But the 3-part strategy that is actually working for us in 2026 is part of the content, it's part of the data, and it's what we do on the platform. So let's break that down. So the first one here is posting with consistency. There's a lot of different gurus who are on the platform who tell you, no, just do it every 2 days, just do it once a week. You should be posting 2 to 3 times a day. We have found the sweet spot to be 5 times per week, and we do it with purpose. Every single post that we put out, it must feature our face. So whoever is taking the majority of the sales calls should be putting their face within the content. And I'm not talking like company page content. I'm talking personal profile content, because it's the profile that is doing the outbound. And so as I had mentioned prior in the beginning of this video, when the algorithm recognizes that there is a relationship that has been started between you and your prospect, it's naturally going to push out your content to them in their news feed. So they're going to start to see your name come up a lot. And if you're using the strategy that we use on LinkedIn, and it is not for virality and it is not built for engagement, but it is built as a conversion tool. So that means that your content needs to be very specific in what it is accomplishing. And that is creating urgency, addressing objections, showcasing proof, and telling compelling client stories. So when I say creating urgency, I'm not talking about the fake stuff that you see where I only have 3 spots left or prices are going up in Q1, etc. I'm talking about showing off the cost of inaction. What happens when they do not utilize your products and services? And if you do not have all of this already done and already down, then you need to go back and do some homework, because this is a big part of the copy that we put out in our content, in our emails, in our video sales letters, in our sales pitches. You have to constantly be showing the reasons why that prospect needs to act today and not continue to put this off, especially if you have an incredibly long sales cycle. You need to go back and you need to look. Could you have gotten a lot of those deals done sooner had you had this messaging piece figured out before? So if we look at every single post that you're putting out in your content, again, we just covered the real urgency. So showing the cost of inaction, things like what kind of revenue are they leaving on the table? What's the price if they are to wait another quarter? Is there something that's going to compound on their behalf in terms of cost because they keep deciding to put this piece off? That's the kind of stuff that you need to be figuring out. And that's what has to go back into every single post that you are putting out. The next is objections. So mind your sales calls. If you're not currently recording your sales calls, you should be doing that. That is how we know the majority of the objections that we get, and also sometimes the objections that we didn't realize that we were getting. I'll give you a prime example. We've done a lot of offers within the tech space where we go in and we scale these companies up very, very quickly. And even though we're, we are true vets in this space of closing deals, it wasn't until I took a whole bunch of our sales transcripts that I recognized that there was a big objection that we were not getting across and getting uncovered. And that was this fear of actual growth, that a lot of these founders that we are talking to, they were making $150,000, $160,000 a year take home. It's not bad, right? Like, it leads to like a nice little lifestyle. Your mortgage is going to be paid. Your kids are going to be able to do their extracurricular activities, etc. And they had this nice little balanced life. They were putting in 40, 45-hour weeks and not having to work a crazy amount. And the idea of us coming in and scaling things up exponentially was actually quite scary for them, because this would disrupt this beautiful little life that they had. But they also wanted growth. They also wanted to be able to hire. They also wanted to be able to scale. But this idea that if they scaled, things would get scary, we had to start to break that false belief, because only until they could increase their revenues would they actually be able to bring on and hire the A players that they needed to experience proper gain and to actually be able to get any sort of an exit in the future. So that came from mining our sales calls. So if you are not doing that, you need to start recording and grabbing all the transcripts. I have a one single running doc that does it month by month, that has all of the sales calls in there. It has little notes about good prospects, bad prospects, but I'm always coming back and I'm mining that to look for additional objections. And I need to make sure that we are covering inside of our content, because if I can get that objection taken care of before we even get on our first call, that's a win. The next that all of your posts need to include are proof and outcomes. You need to share measurable wins. So that is looking at either the revenue that was generated or the costs that were saved along the way, the time that you were able to recover. If your offer is intangibles, it's not going to win over B2B buyers. And so if you are in the position where the majority of your deals is coming through referrals or from your network, there's a whole lot of trust that's passed over. And the prospect doesn't always need to be super clear on the measurable outcomes you can drive for them, because the person that they spoke to was just over the moon, was so happy. They reached goal A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they're going to attach that to the outcomes that you can drive for them. But when you're going to a cold audience and you are using outbound campaigns on LinkedIn, all of your posts need to point to those measurable wins that you have gotten for your past clients. The next are client stories. So you need to be talking about the before state, the after state, the struggle that they went through in order to even commit to be working with you, the transformation that you got for them, the relief that they had once they were on the other side. But specificity and storytelling is what win deals, because when your prospects can see themselves in the clients that you've already helped, it makes it much easier for them to make this big change, and that is to be able to work with you. The next big strategy that's working for us is upgrading where you get your data from. So basic Sales Navigator filters are just more of a guessing game. You need to reach prospects who are actively showing buyer intent signals. So intent data, it identifies companies and people who are researching solutions like yours today. They're reading content, they're comparing vendors, and they're evaluating options. Our best platform of choice currently today is a platform called Trigify. It's what really services real intent, and it helps us build the lists of the prospects of people who are actually in market. And what I love about this tool as well is that it only goes back 7 days. And that's really, really important, because you don't want to try to find people who were searching 3 months ago, 6 months ago, etc. That's just not valid data anymore. And the conversations are a lot easier to get started with somebody when just a couple days ago they were searching and researching a solution that was the one that you're offering in that DM today. So it's a lot easier to get a reply back from somebody knowing that they're in this buying pocket, as we call it. All right, strategy number 3 that is working very well for us right now is sending customized videos right inside the app. I'm not talking about a Loom. I'm talking about opening up the LinkedIn app, clicking on the send video, and sending a video right natively in the app. And so what we do is we go back to their profile and we look for a hook. We look for the first 3 to 5 seconds to showcase that we've done a little bit of research on them, and we try to show them that we understand their current problem and that we might have a solution. Part of the other ways in which we receive such a high reply rate to the tune of 87% is that when we open up with insight, we're referencing what we found. And then we're just doing a small little pivot, and we're pivoting onto the idea that we understand that the challenge that these leaders in their space are currently going through, and actually we might have a solution for them. We share how you solve that exact problem, and we keep it conversational, but we keep it very direct. And then, of course, we check for relevance. We end with, wondering if this is even on your radar. So this is not a pushy call to action. This is not us trying to sell in the first message. This is not us even asking for the appointment in the first message. And the thing why these videos convert so well is it's kind of like when you're at a networking event and you go over to somebody who you really want to have a conversation with and you extend out your hand to shake their hand. It's incredibly rude for that person to not respond back and shake your hand back. And that is why these videos work so incredibly well, is that you show the prospect that you did a little bit of research on them, give them a little bit of insight, and the fact that it's done through video and these custom videos that's right inside the app, that plays right inside the app, it's really easy for them to hit play, not have to leave the platform, and see that you put real work into the outreach with them. And their inbox is so full with these spray and pray messages that those videos stand out really, really well. So when we look at systems that win and why this is currently winning for us right now is that this is building the trust first. So the content that we're putting out, that is establishing authority for us before we ever even reach out, and prospects are starting to recognize our name. And then of course we're targeting real buyers. So the intent data, it ensures that we are talking to people who are actively looking for this solution. And then that custom videos that we're sending, it really just cuts through all of the noise that's currently happening on the platform. So if you're ready to fix your outbound and you want to stop wasting time on tactics that don't work and want to build an outbound system that actually fills your pipeline, you can book a strategy call with me down below. We currently have a couple of spots available for our Done For You service. And we also are looking currently right now for 2 more revenue share partners to bring on for Q2 of 2026. If that is you, book a call with me down below and we'll take it from there. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, because every week I release new videos on how we close B2B deals from completely cold traffic. Thanks.